it is 2 weeks after our last session. I'm not sure if people actually attended or had a chance. First and foremost, let's get through a couple things. Disclosures. Trading is risky. Make sure everybody understands that this is educational in nature. And what we're going to be discussing today is the kind of tools and techniques that I use for our trades and analysis in the markets and where we've come so far this year. So let me just remind you guys, if you see here we go. We did a webinar back on the day after the election. And I would recommend for many of you, and I'm going to just copy this and I'll put it into our webinar room. Oh, gee whiz. I don't have the shortened version. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, that's all right. You know, this was a recording. Let me give me a minute. I'll find the shortened version one. That's ridiculous, person. Let me get the shortened version. You guys are going to want to see this. It was pretty, if you were in attendance, we did a couple things that session. First and foremost, we talked about, here it is. Let me just get this one right there. I'm going to copy it. Let me go here and trash that one. There. You guys copy paste that link that I just put into the general chat box. That actually has a video. Don't click on it now. I'll click on it for you. And I'll bring it. Actually, I'm going to open it in a separate browser. Okay, and then we'll get rocking and rolling for today. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. All right. I'm still getting a handle on this whole technology issue. Anyway, what that was all about is the day after the elections, that video is about an hour long. It went into some of the tools that we use, and we're going to review it today. And we're going to go back, and we're also going to look at what these tools are showing for the current market environment. What that video talked about was the bullishness and what we saw in the market as far as looking for the Russell to be the outperformer. It's about 40 minutes into the presentation we actually got to talking about where we felt that we had stronger buy signals for Nordstrom's, stock symbol is JWN, and we also talked about the Russell, IWM, having a little bit of outperformance strength, so to speak, and being ready to look to be a buyer and being in the Russell relative to the other markets. And as you know, the Russell, and it's probably on everyone traders chatter right now, the Russell's, I think after today's move in the market, I think the Russell's now up about close to 18% on a year-to-date basis, with the S&P is up about 9%, 9.5% year-to-date basis. So the IWM, the Russell, has just absolutely come through like a champ. Of course, Nordstrom's took off. Consumer discretionary XRT got into the mix, and we'll show some interesting components as to what and what we use. A lot of what I talk about are, just to give you a bit of history, many of you know me, probably this book right here, many of you may have gotten this book. This is what started it all about combining candlesticks and pivot point analysis. I think a lot of people reference the candlesticks that I use, especially the work that I've done with the doji signals, as well as pivot point analysis, and we'll talk about pivots today because it's very important in our work, and incorporating pivot point moving averages, and this book really helped light the path for people to explore using pivot point moving averages. This book, Mastering the Stock Market, came out, I can't believe it's now 4 years ago, and it really helped traders evolve into looking at volume analysis through the eyes of on-balance volume. That book single-handedly, along with presentations at money shows and the Traders Expos, really helped popularize on-balance volume to the point where Thinkorswim actually built a scan with on-balance volume because of it. So it's like it's been an interesting ride that we've had over the last few years, in the last decade, in not just what we trade, where we trade, and how we trade. I mean, we no longer trade on the floor. It's algorithmic trading. What we trade, more people trading options, leveraged inverse ETFs. In the last 8 years, popularity of ETFs have just skyrocketed. So, any event, we'll talk a little bit about that today, and that's why I was focusing on the IWM rather than looking at the actual Russell futures. Any event, with that said, many of you are probably familiar with the fact that we put out our educational trading products in our program with Trading Triggers University, our trading room, and of course our really well-received weekly thoughts and observations advisory service newsletter now. With that said, here's my little 12-point trading program that I always like to share with people when I've been at conferences and speak for investment groups. And I just came off of speaking in South America to a bunch of investors in Colombia, Cartagena, which was really exciting, to be honest with you, to look at these traders and to be a part of molding their future careers. We also just did a little trip in Europe, in Paris, as well as in Germany at the World of Trading Conference there. A lot of wealth managers. Ironically, a lot of traders. It's ironic where we in the United States have such a keen, I think, higher education in the markets than our European counterparts, if you believe that. We are trading more products. We have accessibility to, I think, I wouldn't say better technology or internet, but we certainly have more products to trade than our European counterparts. And one of the things that's interesting is that options is not as popular now in Europe. It's really amazing. So as far as what we have the ability to be so flexible in how we want to take and tackle a trade idea. The first thing is we got to get a decent trade idea. And how do we get a good trade idea? Well, if you had better inclinations that a market was going to go up and that the market had maybe more momentum behind it, you may develop a sense of a better trading strategy. You may be more directional. I'm sure everyone would agree with that. So let me rephrase that. If you had better analytical skills and you had a tool or a combination of the right tool that would say, hey, this is a sustainable move and it's got some legs and it might see a move to, from X to Y in a short period of time. If you had a tool that could help you uncover that type of movement, you would probably not put a non-directional strategy on. You'd put a more directional position on. And we use this, what we call the PBS buy and sell triggers, to do just that, to look for markets that are moving up because it's easy to scan. Now, I also use this candle pattern. Many of you are familiar with the high and low close doji pattern, which we've created a lot of scans for. So first and foremost, let's just jump right into Thinkorswim today and utilize, while we're looking at the Russell, the IWM. And by the way, guys, ladies and gentlemen, on the 9th, that was this day right there, this is where I said, hey, there is some sustainable move coming in the market. Our volume indicator was showing that the move was showing absolute momentum, strong momentum behind the move. And if you watch that video, 40 minutes into it, it gives a clear, concise description of the Russell and the momentum behind it and why we were looking for the performance to not just get to the highs of the year, but we were looking for the market to exceed the highs of the year. And by the way, this is the highs of the year. Let's go back and review. So this is the IWM, and interestingly enough, The market at this point in time was up about 11.5. It was about 11.5% year-to-date gain. When it sold off right into the election near a person's pivot support targets, guess what? It was only up 3.9%. So we were looking for the market to go not only back up to the highs, but we were looking for the market to exceed the highs. And that's exactly what we've done, by the way. So the volume tool, so that's why I did put the link in there for everybody so that you can see that and go and replay. I would highly recommend you spend the hour. It'd probably be the best hour that you look at, and you can fast forward the recording. It's pretty powerful. Now, we got a couple people that say they can't hear anything. So I'm going to ask everyone, is the sound coming out okay right now? Because we are well into looking at a few things that I want to make sure everyone can hear. Is the sounds great? You got projection. We've got Thinkorswim up. Audio's okay. 5x5. Someone says the audio's poor. I got half the people saying the audio's great. I'll turn it up just a tad. I got most people saying sounds good, perfect, good, good, yes, good, good. All right, good, good, okay, great, great, great. All is good. So I don't know. If I talk any louder, I'm going to be yelling. So any event, here's what we want to address today. Okay. When I look at the Thinkorswim product, the platform itself, it has so many powerful things. One of the things that I like to do is to find out and use for their scanning feature. I can look to scan in multitude of categories. I can do it by equities. I can do it by index. I can do it by all types of different filtering methods, gaps, indexes like the NASDAQ 100, new highs, new lows, nice. I can do it by pretty much anything that people have put together. And one of the things that I think is interesting is that what I like to do is run my PPS, and that's where I put up this slide right here. The PPS buy, that's what that stands for, PPS buy and sell triggers, because it's easy to scan. I can run a scan. So what did I mean by bullet point number one? Real simple. I can go to Thinkorswim and immediately I can look at a market and say, gee, if I'm bullish, I'm going to run buy signals. So I got to have an idea that I'm kind of bullish, right? So that would be the first of the overall broad market. And if I think the market's starting to get a little overbought and a little rich in valuation, I'm going to start looking at some PPS sell signals. And I'm going to bet today, and we're going to go and just share with you right now, as I believe the market is what we were telling people, and I'll share with you between today's close, 132.80 area, right, in the IWM up to 134. It's a big target of resistance for the Russell. It's between a longer-term pivot resistance and the weekly person's pivot resistance. So let's take a look at that real quick, guys. So here I have the studies, and we're going to edit studies real quick, and you can see persons, pivots, weeklies, pivots are on. Okay? So I have the weekly pivots on, and you can see that's what we got. All right. We just hit a weekly person's pivot target. Now, one of the things that Thinkorswim does not have is my longer term will be working on it. There's a couple things that are missing on the Thinkorswim program. One is a pivot moving average. Two is a longer term pivot calculation. But we're working with David Keir, JJ's on it, Q's in on it, so it's coming out soon in early first quarter of 2017. And we'll be doing some more follow-through education for that of how to utilize that tool more aptly on the TOS product. Okay? So what I'm looking at is we were bullish down here, and I'm not so bullish anymore up here. And I'm looking for either by tomorrow, Wednesday, or Friday's close, I'm looking at a couple items. First off, TNA is the inverse ETF on IWM. Many of you might be familiar with that, TNA. And TNA is the bullish 3-time ETF. You'll notice that it too is at its pivot weekly resistance. So that's pretty cool. So let's look at TZA, the inverse ETF, right? So if the buy side or the bullish ETF is at resistance, we would think that the bearish or the inverse is at or near support. And guess what? It kind of is and it isn't. It's not right exactly at the support like the inverse or the directional ETF TNA is at resistance. You see that? Because this is inverse. So if we think that the Russell may have peaked out, we're going to be looking and scanning for some buying opportunities in as a quick dead cat bounce to get back up into value. And I think, by the way, if you look at some of the options, you'll notice that there's some, we've got a couple events. If we look through this week, you're going to notice that at the end of, in the next couple of weeks, we got a couple things that are going on here. After this week, Thanksgiving, seasonally we do go up the day before and the day after Thanksgiving, or the markets maintain their values. And then we come in next week, and guess what we're going to come into? We're coming into next Friday, the monthly unemployment report. And then we got the, of course, tomorrow at 2 p.m. we have the Fed Beige Book. And then in 2 weeks, on December 14th, we're coming in with the FOMC interest rates. So despite the election and the market's euphoric rise, anyone with maybe some money on the table is probably going to want to take something off the table. And I think that's where we're looking for the market to come near this hidden support target to look for a reversal, at least to a little regression to the means. So when I use my analysis and my style of analysis, right, I am looking for trade opportunities. I'm looking for not just a market that comes near support, but I'm looking at the condition of the market when it gets near support. Is it on heavy volume? Is the volume really strong? And these are some of the considerations that I'm looking at. I also look at the various time frames of the pivot analysis. So, So I wanted to share with you a couple other items using TradeStation, and I don't know if we're going to get there because, as you just saw, here we go. Good. All right, so at least it's allowing me to share this with you. So we're coming up near, and this is the IWM, and this is what Thinkorswim does not show. But you can see that the 134.37, we've got a quarterly pivot resistance up there. Our person's pivot indicator accurately looks for the quarterly support to hold. Volume is strong, breadth is strong. This is the advanced decline of the Russell itself. But I will say that we're starting to lose a little of the volume as this market's gone up recently. The volume is starting, you can see this green. Let me ask everybody, can you see that these green bars are getting a little bit, making lower highs, right? You can see that they're trending down, right? That's showing that even though the market is going up, it's going up on a lot, the relative net change of volume, as the market moves up, meaning from the volume change from one day to the next, percentage-wise, in terms of percentage, it's not making great, stronger moves. It's starting to show a weakening of the momentum. So when we get near, after a tremendous upside move, and you get near with a loss of momentum. Here's an example right over here. If you look here, the market was rallying right into that quarterly resistance, and as it was rallying, the momentum side of volume, meaning the market was rallying, but the volume, the momentum was going down, if you can see that. So what that suggests, here's on balance volume, and it's suggesting that the market's going up, and that's great. But this indicator was sharing that the change, the rate of change of the volume, as the market was moving up, the rate of change of volume was going down. So yes, while it was positive, it wasn't aggressively positive, and it was showing a change. And so when we start to see a market that rallies and the momentum of the change in volume is starting to dissipate, and we're near an important resistance level, we start to get a little bit concerned that we're going to be entering a profit-taking pullback, or at least a consolidation. And that's why I think right now, by at least as we get near the quarterly pivot, I want everyone to be aware of this, 134.37 is the quarterly pivot resistance. And then let me share with you over here, and I'll try to change this up to the weekly IWM. Please work, baby. I don't think it's going to work for us because IWM, it went offline. So the weekly, we'll just use Thinkorswim, right? And I just shared with you IWM. Here's what's neat. We're at a what we would call or consider a confluence, two different time frames. We are near the quarterly pivot resistance and a weekly pivot resistance, and that momentum volume is starting to weaken. Right? So now all we got to do is start looking for any aggressive newer highs, and we typically know the day before Thanksgiving, that's Wednesday, and then there's Thanksgiving, which is a U.S. holiday, which is Thursday, right? And then you got Friday. All right, so this isn't a bogey, this is a day off, okay? This isn't a birdie or a par, it's just a day off. I'm just suggesting, I'm just circling where we're at in the week. So typically, looking ahead, we've had a tremendous upside move in the Russell. It's outperformed 2-to-1 year-to-date percent change. Year-to-date percent change, the Russell's outperformed the S&P. We're at important resistance levels. So by Wednesday's close, if we're up near or slightly elevated into this resistance zone, which we're there right now, because this is what we've been talking about in our trading room. We're talking about looking for this market to get up between weekly pivot and quarterly pivot. We've got it marked in red, 132.81 in the Russell IWM. And I think going in and looking by, if you look at your calendar, you'll see there's two events. On December 2nd, you got an unemployment report, the monthly unemployment report. Those are game changers. We're going to find out whether or not the economy is on a roll. And then, of course, on December 14th, we've got the Fed, which most likely is raising rates. So, I don't know, is Janet Yellen going to get bitter and raise rates a half a point, a quarter point? Is the unemployment number going to be weak, stronger than anticipated? There's going to be something that's out there that may cause people to not want to maybe get aggressively long up here, right, at resistance after a tremendous reversal as the market's nearing almost a 20% year-to-date gain in the Russell. That's where we're at right now, almost a 20% year-to-date gain. So for me, folks, I'm putting things together and saying, what are the indicators that I'm using, and how do I come up with some of these trade ideas combined with the events that are coming up? And these are some of the kind of concepts that we use. So we're looking for confirmation. We have the PPS, we have candle patterns, we've got persons pivots, and we use various time frames. And so what I was sharing with you is a weekly and quarterly outlook, which have what we call a confluence, two different time frames, and there's resistance. That's going to provide possibly a little bit of halt in the market's advance in the next, I would say, couple weeks. So in the next 2 weeks, I would look for the market to pull back because there's a catalyst that's going to cause doubt in the market. So from a seasonal perspective, we normally see the market go up. And this is something that I put out every week, and many of you already subscribe to this, so that's all right. And I know it's just been, in fact, some of the checklists, the technical points of interest that I do week in and week out. And you will notice right here, weekly pivot resistance on the IWM, 132.92, and the quarterly at 134. So we're already looking at a lineup or a confluence of two different time frames for the IWM. In addition, some of the technical points of interest that we like to look at. We put out, what is the market condition? Weekly PPS, buy and sell. Anyway, I'm going to just fast forward down to this list guide so that you can kind of see that this comes out every Sunday. I put this in everyone's email box on Sunday so you have a chance to prepare for the week. And then we do a Monday before the market opens, a video, and we send it out so we kind of follow up with what the information is about. So I'm thinking that obviously we're in a seasonally strong period of time, and during the Thanksgiving holiday week, usually we post solid gains the day before and after. And then we got Black Friday starts on Thanksgiving Day, I think, or maybe it starts today. I don't know. It's ridiculous, but I did put that in writing. It is ridiculous to go out shopping on Thanksgiving Day, unless your family drives you crazy. I don't know. There might be good and bad with that. I don't know. I didn't think that through. Since we're having and hosting it at our house, it should be fun. But in any event, I think that how much we need to address how much is possible in a short order without a breather. And then so that's where I kind of start to put one and one together, and I look at these indicators. And that's the nature of today's presentation. What drives me and what do I look at week in and week out to gain at least a consistent track record? Many of you know, if you go look at that video, I mean, that was some pretty good shooting right there to pick out Nordstrom's to the upside, Russell to outperform all indices, and to look for Google to drop like a rock. And it's exactly what happened. And Bank of America to go up. So there were some pretty decent things there. By the way, as we scroll down, you will notice that we talk about different indicators. And I just want to get into one of the other kind of trades that I think that we want to be looking at is spread traders might be looking at a short Russell versus long Spider as that spreads a bit wide, and we might be looking at selling small cap, buying large cap in the coming days. Now again, this came out Sunday, and so now here we are. We might be looking at a great opportunity for spread trading. So there's all different ways to capitalize on looking at this Russell as it's up against resistance, right? So if the market just sits here, maybe we get a little upswing and we see catch up with the large cap brethren S&P 500 and a pause in the Russell, or maybe the Russell just pulls back like maybe a couple percentage from these highs. So those are the kind of things that we like to look at. And in addition, I'm going to go over today and talk also about which was really unique, because while we have had an amazing run in the US dollar, right? That means the euro currency has gotten kind of whacked at the knees just a tad, and it was really nice to go over to Europe and almost look at the euro at parity with the US dollar. This is the low that we had earlier in the year in February, and I'll share with what this chart is all about, because this was a topic for the week, by the way, and you stock traders may be interested in this because there's an ETF called the FXE that we want to take a look at with you guys today. So the topic is, what are the indicators that I look at? A. B. How do I put the indicators together? So first and foremost, we have the PPS indicators. Those are those buy and sell arrows. Then we have person's pivots on this chart. Next, I do have, if you look down in this quadrant, this is the OBV volume indicator, and that's a really horrible writing right there. I apologize for that, but this is the OBV. The last time the market was at a low, the reading was down here. Currently, we're here, and the reading is there. So there's a big disparity between the low currently and the volume it's taken to get the market back to the low. What's also interesting is that, while I have too much writing here, one of the things that we point out is this is a commitment of traders report right here. This shows what the hedge funds are doing. what the commercials are doing and the small speculators. And the hedge funds are short, the public is short, and they're short at the lows, and the commercials are reducing their hedges, which means the market is susceptible for maybe a little short covering rally, by the way. So this is kind of from a seasonal perspective, by the way. That's why there's a bullet point. The Euro FX does move up against the dollar most years from late November into year's end. Now this year, we got a big old question mark there. Is it going to do it this year with the fact we got the FOMC to it, or has it been priced into the market, right? What if something comes out? This could be a tremendous key reversal to the upside, or at least a short covering rally a little bit, profit taking. If the hedge funds are short the market and they get paid on a quarterly basis and we're halfway through the quarter, I mean, do they want to really risk being continuously short and risk that profit they have built into the market? That's why I think maybe another trade that we could be looking at is, while we've got a very strong interaction of markets like the Russell near longer-term pivot resistance, we've got the Euro at longer-term pivot support. So that's kind of a weird setup there, and I always make it a rule, never buy resistance, and never sell support. It's just a bad, bad, bad habit. Anyway, these are some of the things that we've put together, guys, that I think are in every single week. And then for you stock trader, here's kind of some interesting stuff here. We had some weekly buys that were fairly interesting that popped up on our scans, right? You'll like this one, AT&T. We had Bristol Myers, Hess, Juniper Network. I didn't have any sell signals this week, right? So I think it was kind of an interesting week where we look for certain buy setups. And I don't know if you guys, see what we've got tomorrow, by the way. Weekly jobs, durable goods, home price index, PMI manufacturing, new home sales, consumer sentiment, oil inventory, natural gas report, 5-year note auction, and then finally the FOMC minutes. Tomorrow, big day. Big day tomorrow. And after that, man, we're going to need to rest up, because I think the week after and going into the next 3 weeks is going to be pretty amazing. So Friday, we'll see what Friday brings. Keep in mind, Thursday is a U.S. holiday. It's not a global holiday. The UK, the Brits, they don't really celebrate this Thanksgiving thing. It's not big for them. In Germany, it's not big for them. So the foreign banks are kind of open. Euro currency, the foreign currencies will be open. Keep that in mind. And so we are going to, have some markets that are be open. So it's not just Black Friday sales. You diehard junkies can watch the markets Thursday night, Thanksgiving night. Anyway, this is kind of the stuff that we actually live and breathe. And when I tell people that literally this is my 12-point kind of trading program, I look at relative strength, we look at commitment of traders, and I just went over a live example on the Euro. We look at the breadth analysis for stocks. How is the health of the market? Are all the stocks going up, or is there more stocks going down than up in the market? These are kind of the things that we look at. Volume analysis, seasonal analysis, and of course with the Euro we just discussed that, and as well as looking at that volume. So I think if you can combine just a few key elements. First and foremost, you don't have to look at this if you're trading crude oil, gold, and non-stock index. You don't need that, right? But I would have to say that the PBS indicator for any beginner, first and foremost, should help you immediately decide in the stock market how many buys and how many sells. And so let me tell you something real quick, gang. If I'm looking for the Russell to peak out here, then what I want to see happen is, at the very least, I want to see if the market is starting to peak out. I'm going to run scans on and this is what's really neat. Let's go over here, and I'm going to change this to the Russell 2000. And over the next day or so, I'm going to be running this scan. Now, what's neat is on your board over here, you have a gadget, and you can actually show, and I think that'll be for another day, but I can actually set this up and have the gadget to show me PPS scans live on my board. That'll be another presentation. That's going to be pretty cool, that we'll share how to do that, so that as these scans are populating, you're going to find out how many buy or sell signals come through in a specific index. Now think of the logic here. If the Russell, the IWM, if it's strong and it's going up, then we probably shouldn't have a lot of sell signals, right? We should not have a lot of sell signals. More importantly, if all of a sudden, if the Russell is starting to peter out, we're going to start to generate a lot of sell signals, and it's going to first start maybe on a 5-minute basis, then it'll be on a 15-minute basis, and then on a 60-minute basis, and then the next thing a 4-hour basis, and the next thing you're going to get daily. The daily sell signals. When you start to see more and more stocks generate sell signals, right? You're probably seeing in real time the advanced decline, more stocks declining, not going down negative, but generating actual sell signals. Now that is amazing as to get a really strong indication that if all of a sudden you start to get sell signals at resistance in an index, I know not to buy that index, right? Isn't that pretty logical? So there are ways. All we need to do is to get a way to get a true measurement of the market. And here's what's really cool, right? We can actually list by industry what concentration of the sell signals of that index. So for example, in the Russell today, at the end of the day, 1-hour sell signal, we got sell signals at the end of the day in some of the oil and gas consumable fuel sectors, right? Here are some of those names. Some building products. We had machinery, road and rail. Here they are, right? Some hotels, restaurants. I think Weight Watchers, WTW. Specialty retail, healthcare, banks, biotech. Only 2 names there in the small cap biotech. And in the internet, you could clearly see, while it's a very strong day, we still generated hourly sell signals in approximately 53 names, right? So there's the showing 53 names. Internet, software, and that's some of the names right there. So, I mean, this does not really float my boat as a lot of sell signals, but all of a sudden, if I generated tomorrow, if the index, if the Russell has follow-through strength, and I start to see like 300 or 500 names, which is what? Out of Russell 2000, you get 25% of the index generating hourly sell signals, and the index is making a new high. I got news for you. It's time to put on maybe some TNA. This is a way to really get concrete evidence that there's a market internal change in the market. So you have the ability to learn how to do this. Everything's at your disposal. It's just a matter of knowing how to use the tools that you have, pointing and clicking in the right spot, and understanding the logic behind it. Now, I just changed this PPS sell signal. And if you don't know where that is, go to the study, go to license study, and just look for PPS buy and sell. Now, if that's real easy to find right there. It's also in the custom, and you can look for buy and sell. So if you're looking for the market to reverse after a strong rally, you want to use this scan in any index to start to give you a clue that we're starting to see a rollover in certain names. Now, ironically, we all know, maybe you don't, but the biotech sector today was pretty weak, as was pharmaceutical. So IBB and the XLV, healthcare, XLV, drug stocks, as well as biotech was fairly weak. So we're, naturally going to see some weakening in the market here. Okay, guys? So what I want to look at, and again, this is a 4 hour. I want to see midday tomorrow, I'll run that scan and say, gee, did we get more than 31 names? Because if the list starts to grow as the index goes up and the more sell signals I'm getting, that's, you got to admit, kind of questionable, right? If the market's truly strong, we shouldn't get very many sell signals at all. So that's what I'm going to be looking for tomorrow, and that'll help qualify the, and here, I'm just going to change this to 15 minutes. The market rallied on the end of the day, exploded. And that'll help qualify the, and here, I'm just going to change this to 15 minutes. The market rallied. The index in the last 15 minutes. I mean, that's a kind of a nice little follow-through upside move in the Russell in the last 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute chart. And in the last 15 minutes, we actually had 59 stocks generate new, fresh 15-minute sell signals. This is a PBS sell signal. Lands End, retail. So let's take a look at that. Now, does that, and there it is, 15-minute sell signal. So Lands End, by the way, this to me looks a little sickly. Why? The stock market rallied to new highs, and it is in the index that it's in, and this thing may have formed a double top, and the volume is divergent, right? I mean, the market went down, it tried to rally, and from the number 1 peak to the number 2 peak, there was no volume behind this move. So for tomorrow, by the way, tomorrow, gang, Lands End, I mean, you're not going to sell an $18 stock maybe, but, you know, you are going to probably want to look at how many of, or at least maybe avoid buying that stock. You're going to maybe look at this in a different light to say how many stocks are really generating some powerful buy or sell signals, okay? So I hope that was kind of like clear how to get through, and what, when I tell people and teach people, here's a 12-point program. So, I mean, it's easy to say it's easy to scan. I just hope I took at least one bullet point and shared with you what did I mean by those 3 words, easy to scan. Well, with Thinkorswim, pretty easy to scan, right? All you got to know is buy and sell PPS, and then select the time frame you want and to run those scans there, okay? So that's kind of like an easy one for me. So the pivot point analysis, as I was talking about, the only thing that we don't have on Thinkorswim are the quarterly pivots. But you do have the daily, the weekly, which we've looked at together on the Russell, monthly, and then option expiration. And those time frames are very powerful. One of the very few platforms that we actually made the option expiration time frame, because Thinkorswimmers, we're a little savvier than most. I must say that. So anyway, as far as the pivot levels for me, one of the things that I want to cover, because people keep asking me this question, and I think there was a question today, if you'll notice with person's pivots, there's literally 1 red and 1 green, and you've got a purple, or at least these are my settings, okay? So what am I looking at? Well, if this is 1 day and this is 2 days, then you know that I've got at the very least weekly. And if you don't know, it's actually listed right here, weekly pivots. So what's neat for me and what I like to do is I use the person's pivot indicator, and what I was mentioning earlier, this is a phenomenal indicator. And a lot of people say, hey, do you use all the pivot calculations? And the answer is absolutely not. I mean, there's people that have, and I've just learned, there's actually people out there that have R4 and then the midpoint. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then 17. If you had all of these lines on your chart, you would have 17 lines every single day, every single week. You wouldn't know how to trade. And that's exactly my point. My indicator, when the market's bullish, it gives one resistance and one target and the pivot point. And if the market's truly bullish, it should stay somewhere just north or at support, and then it should generate at least buy signal sometime in there. And how you day trade's a different story. I mean, you could sell the high, buy the low, and back and forth, and you know, that's where the PBS indicator works for us. But overall, if the market is supposed to be in an uptrend, we're going to make a newer high and a higher high and a higher low. And if the market's truly bullish, that's what this did. It filtered the person's pivots. The beauty and the brains behind it is that it filters your support and resistance and gives you an idea of what the market condition is by giving you a futuristic target of a higher high if it's bullish and a higher low. Does that make sense? I mean, if I could tell you at the end of one day to the next, tomorrow's bullish, here's what the range is going to be, that's pretty impressive. If I could do it on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and a quarterly basis, that's really impressive. What's totally cool about it is that we are looking at a market that's maybe people are just now waking up to the fact that it's bullish and they're starting to buy, and we're already in the Russell at hidden quarterly and weekly pivot resistance, which means you don't want to be buying right now. My old adage is, and that's one of the things that really, even though the market's bullish, we're up near a resistance. And I don't think the market in a given time frame, and let's face it, if this was a monthly bar, so let's say this is October and this is November, I don't care, maybe December is still bullish. If the market at the end of November closes near the high, it most likely will pull back and give you what? A higher high, higher low combination, right? That's what markets do. They do this. And people tend to buy here, and then they sell there, and then the market goes up and they wonder how they lose. With person's pivots, it's not the holy grail, but as you can see, we don't just use one indicator, we use a few indicators and tie them together. And that's where I think it will help traders, and it has helped a lot of traders. The reverse, by the way, and this is so powerful and easy to use. I mean, it is amazing. It's simplistic, and it helps filter out the market condition. So when you go and you look at that video, by the way, and you go back, and we're going to go, and let me just review this with you guys real quick. JWN, Nordstrom. And let's go over to the daily chart. All right, so on the 9th, by the way, that day, on that day, right here, you and I spent time, and I said, listen, Nordstrom's, it actually had a little PPS buy signal. The volume was, before the market actually broke out, the volume indicator and the buy signal was already showing accumulation. And even if you came into the party late, holy moly, man, that was a hell of a rally. And we talked about that, not that day, we talked about it right there. And that was on November 9th, not that long ago, by the way. Look at this, GOOGL. We talked about a sell signal in Google. We talked about it right there. And that was on November 9th, not that long ago, by the way. Look at this. On the 9th, where are we? On that day. I mean, the rest of the world rallies, and Google just takes a tremendous dive. It almost came right at the person's predicted support. Notice what it did. It was targeting a bearish outlook. It came right to the predicted resistance and almost had the support. I mean, guys, this is if you can learn how to incorporate this in your trading, I gotta tell you, I think it's something that you can stay contained within those parameters. I think it's going to help you immensely in your trading. And that's why it's such a popular tool, to be honest with you, because it is simple, it's elegant, and it has a high frequency of success. And that's the key. So the person's pivots, if you can identify the fact that, hey, at the end of the week, it said next week, by the way, if the market rallies to resistance, watch out. We're targeting here's the prior week's high, this is this week's high, There's the low, and it's targeting the market to give you a projection lower low and a lower high. What does that tell you, guys? If the market gets up near resistance, you probably want to look for sell signals, and you can make some money. And that's the key in the essence of trading. And then last but not least, that video that we addressed was talking about one other market. It was the upside in Bank America, BAC. I mean, this is a little outrageous, and it went up a little more than I thought. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but I mean, here we had, if you look at what we were seeing, there was volume accumulation, PBS buy signal, high close doji powerful behind it, and then all of a sudden that thing just launched to the upside. So look at the person's pivots indicator, who's also telling you, by the way, we still got more upside, and there it is. So would I buy it now? No. I think you have to start to address that. You know, there's probably going to be a little period of consolidation in the stocks. But this is what I just thought it would be nice to have a follow-up presentation to say, are the tools working? What's working? Is one tool by themselves working? The answer, no. But I think there's what you're seeing on your screen, we have three indicators. The PPS, that's the buy and the sell arrows. The person's pivot indicator, right? And then the volume indicator. So we have price, condition, market outlook, and volume. So those are the kind of the just three simple tools that we would put together and that are working in this environment. And that's why in this weekly thoughts and observations, by the way, I want to share this with you because earlier this year, these were trade recs. And I want you to look at these dates. I mean, I just got, these were the weekly thoughts and observations, all right? These were some of the names that we put out for weekly swing trading. The entry, the exits, the dates, right? And all of a sudden, by the time, on a cumulative basis, now February and January were amazing times, and I know a lot of people said to sell stocks, but man, our indicators putting things together was like, I mean, this was a trade we did twice with Roadrunner Transportation. You know, I mean, ETN, Qualcomm, Apache, Win. I mean, these are some really amazing success stories of stuff that we put together in that weekly thoughts and observations. Look at this. I just got tired of it. I mean, I couldn't keep up with it, right? By the end of February, combined over almost 500% cumulative total of like, guys, this is starting to get, it's starting to get ridiculous, right? Then, finally, I decided to put it out with actual, just instead of just putting in the advisory service, I actually put, instead of knowing everyone should assume where to put a stop and where to take a profit, I put that in writing, and that's what we did for people. And I started to do this at like the worst possible time. August 1st, I said, let's start it as a product. And so every week we did this. And you know what? In August, you got to admit, it was kind of a really weird market, right? We didn't see anything really happen. We had actually, since August, 17 longs, 17 shorts. That's since August 1st, by the way. A few options, distinct strategies that we've put out, right? I mean, respectable ideas to put out net profit and percent gain since August 1st as of current prices. So I'm kind of pleased, and then to come in again even with this week, I mean to say, by the way, AT&T, here's some more notable bullish patterns that we have. This is a very powerful product that gives people not only a workable education and gives you exactly what to look at, technical points of interest. I mean, I can't imagine why anyone wouldn't want to have this on their desks every Sunday, to have the guy who created these indicators that uses them every week and every day on their desk. So I know that everyone has a different way of trading, and you know, there are different ways to capitalize on markets. But in its very simplest form, I think even with the financial arena, or one that I'm kind of embarrassed because I don't even want to tell you, I got out a little early, but we did identify the steel stock and that whole sector, and we played that well. We also played a really, I mean, this was an amazing little option trade, Morgan Stanley. Now, I'm flat in this. I'm out on Morgan Stanley. I think we've gotten a little over above board on these trades, and we'll see some kind of correction. But let me share this with you. Look what one of the AT&T was this week's kind of picks. And today, out of the blue, or this week, all of a sudden, what was weak is now coming back into strength. And I think, honestly, I think Verizon had VZ had a better day. Now, don't be running out tomorrow and buying Verizon. It's at weekly resistance. But look at this from a weekly chart perspective, guys. We are going to form a weekly buy signal in Verizon this week. And that leaves the door open if we're at resistance right now. Maybe next week we could see a little bit of a pullback near the person's pivot support. What do you think? I mean, if the market is truly bullish, we might be, you know, we should be doing that like it did here. Pullback, rallies, pullback, rallies, pullback, and then flatline. So looking at the pivots, just like in any market advance, we want to look for buying opportunities when a trend starts to evolve. And we're just starting to see that, by the way, in the telecommunications. Because the Russell is overbought, anyone that's made some money in the Russell, by the way, they just might do something, take some of that money off the table and put it to work in some, what? Now that they've got a little extra cash, stocks that make sense. I can tell you this, I use AT&T. I don't think they're going out of business, guys. I was just in Europe, and everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has a cell phone. And by the way, this was one of our top picks of the week in the weekly thoughts and observations. And how we put it together is real simple. I combine specific tools, and I utilize those tools, and I do my market analysis. No different than what I'm sharing with you right now, and no different than what we put together on the day after the election. So it was pretty special, and I want to say I hope you guys have gotten a little bit something out of the presentation today. There's a little bit more to this person pivot, and what you don't see, by the way, I wanted to show you this. When I talk about the gold and the blue relationship, that's what you do not see on Thinkorswim, but in 2017, it's going to be added, that little gold line. And if you notice, we got, like, if you can see this, you'll see that we've got this blue is above the gold. Blue is above the gold, right? Blue is above the gold. 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 And all of a sudden, when the market closed, look what happened, transformed the next time period. The blue was below the gold. So what do you think that might mean? And by the way, note here, when the market closed right there, it identified a lower red and a lower green, right? So it probably signified that the uptrend had changed, and we should start looking for sell signals. Right? So that red lower high and lower green lower low combination after uptrends, that's one thing that's actually a trading system that we look for. And by the way, I'm going to show you this chart because it's pretty amazing. This didn't get a price projection because the prior week's range was negative. In fact, here's where the market closed. It closed actually higher. If you look at that chart, it was a doji, but on the close, it projected a reversal in the market, and it had the high. Not only did it say, by the way, you've got a bearish week for next week, and that blue gold combination is bearish, and it went into a massive reversal. Now, this is pretty much the technique that I used on the day after the election to say Russell's going to go up, Bank American can go up, Nordstrom can go up, and Google's going to go down. And by God, folks, that is very, I mean, that's like taking a thread and putting it through the eye of the needle. That's some pretty darn good shooting to help people out, at least to focus on what side of the market to be on. So with that said, whether it's gold, it's that Pearson's pivots. What makes it tick? Watching that blue above gold, if we got bullish days, these are the things that I think that are going to, if we can get you to learn a little bit about this better, you're going to not really miss a lot of great trading opportunities. Many of you are familiar with the high close doji setup already, and that is one of the major scans that we put out, and I think one of the most amazing trade setups that could possibly be created as a trading system. And then when we combine the use of volume, by the way, I think like we've said, with the increased use of options, dark pools, foreign markets, and American depository receipts, it's no wonder that volume histogram analysis has become less effective, because we're seeing people, instead of trading underlying markets, they're going to options. So we need to design and develop a better way of looking at volume trends. And that's why we popularized the OBV indicator. Anyway, if you're interested, we have a lot of great products and services that we help people become better traders and become dynamically successful. And it's not just with institutional traders and wealth managers that we've been working with, but you know we've been working with a lot of retail people. So if you want to improve, take advantage of some of the products that we've put out. They're some of the best products. This one right here is a no-brainer. This is $49 a month, and this year, and I'm not giving you a cheesy sales line. It is going up. We're going to change. This was an introductory. We always said it. I wanted to see how we could do. It's a track record product, weekly thoughts and observations. It comes with Monday's planning and scanning, email alerts, advisory service, and a provable track record. It's $49 a month. If you want to take advantage of it, go to personsplanet.com/report. I would strongly recommend you take a whirl at this, and I know you're going to fall in love with it. It is dynamically successful, and we work very hard at it, and the harder we work, the luckier we get. And that is one of the things, to try to find unique trading opportunities with a defined risk strategy, right? And to look for a high probability setup in this crazy world. You know, granted, there's some people that want to shoot for the fences and hit home runs every single day, and that's not what this is designed for. This is designed for consistent results to stay on the right side of the trade. And we look for new, fresh trading opportunities for swing traders every single week. And just like this week's issue, it has the same format. We go through the same routine checklist of indicators to look for dynamic opportunities. So anyway, it is a special offer, because as the beginning of the year, the first of the year, it is going up. It's going to be more than double per month, because it is almost like an advisory service with a, I mean, literally money management twist behind it. So if you're interested, I would snatch a copy and number one, and take at least a whirl for the month of December, which is coming up in a couple weeks. So we also have our annual PUG membership for our Thinkorswim our TradeStation users. This gives our TradeStation professional package. We have all kinds of stuff there that it's just, if you're a TradeStation user, and I didn't mean to not show TradeStation today, but I wanted to focus a little bit on Thinkorswim. But if you are a TradeStation user, then you want to go to the App Store and take a look at our scans and our radar screen alerts, and I think you'll find a lot of great information in the App Store on TradeStation. If you have any other questions about the advisory service, the newsletter, the weekly thoughts and observations, it's $49 a month, and it is going up at the end of the year. So if you want to lock in a great rate and a phenomenal product with a provable track record, give us a call, go online, check it out. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I wanted to wish everyone a warm and wonderful, safe holiday. And let's give a good cheer to our servicemen abroad. And I know we've had a lot of, we do have these recorded. We've got some servicemen actually that follow me in the Middle East, and of course the timing's a lot different. And I wanted to say, since they will be watching this recording, salute to you guys. Thank you so much for keeping us safe. God bless you guys, and God bless everyone here. And we'll see you on the flip side next month. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. And again, in conclusion, watch for the euro and watch for resistance off this Russell. It could be an interesting pullback, and you guys now have a workable idea of how to get testifiable signals based on the PPS scan feature on Thinkorswim. Take care, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, man.